Welcome back to the Goonerverse podcast, everyone. Look, I do have energy for this, but we've got a lot to get into. I mean, I'm going to just come out with it immediately. I wanted to do a live actually on the Goonerverse. I wanted to do some news pieces of content, but I thought, you know what, Sharoy and I recording, we'll go through it all. The Sammy Mockbell article, I have a lot of issues with. Not anything to do with Sammy himself. He has been one of the top, most respected journalists in the Arsenal space for a long time, and in the football space. But obviously, I follow him for his Arsenal news. And he's come out with a lot of information that we're going to break down around players who could be leaving, expectations around signings, but more importantly, some pretty unfortunate sounding futures for Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri. Now, it's not just them two. There's a lot of players. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of change at Arsenal. And we've got a lot more to get into, like Bournemouth, like getting Sharoy's reaction to the last week. So much has happened in the last 7 days in the world of Arsenal, and we've got to break it down. But I wanted to just come flying out the blocks and letting you know that there's a lot to cover in this pod, a lot, and we're going to fly into it. But Sharoy, first and foremost, how are you, my friend? Because I'm always happy when I see
you. Yeah, I mean, I would believe you if I didn't listen to Loose Cannons and hear that you, Turkish and Jordan went out and had dinner and watched football, and I didn't even get hollered. So I don't know how happy you really are to see me, but yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.
I hate you, you know. I hate you.
There was a comment on the last Loose Cannons episode that I was on that was like, Sharoy, honestly, just stop begging it because it like translates to the audience. And I read it and I went, nah, I'm all right. I'm going to keep putting it on all of them.
Some miserable people. We just now, so we're gonna screen share some tweets in a sec. But we saw some people replying to tweets of mine. I literally said something that defends Arteta's football. So basically, some people don't know, Simeone said the teams that attack best tend to attack worst. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
Tend to defend worse.
Yeah. What did I say?
You said the teams that attack best tend to attack worse. That would have made no sense, brother.
I'm so tired. Yeah. Teams that attack best tend to defend worse. And I just quote tweeted it saying, I felt like we needed someone who's in a position to say it. You know, Simeone has achieved a lot of great things and has played football of varying styles, but is most known for a particular rigidity and pragmatism in his play. And people in the comments were just having a go at me, being like, oh, if Arteta said this, I'm like, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Arteta's not won anything. Don't tell me about an FA Cup in 2020, which has nothing to do with his group. He hasn't won anything since the project started, let's say. I'm not taking away the FA Cup. It's an amazing achievement. But with this group, in the mold he wanted, with the DNA he wanted, he hasn't. So he can't. We need someone who has had a particular model, have success, that at times has mirrored a lot what we're trying to do. We needed someone with that kind of clout to speak. Not we needed it, but it's validating to the kind of football we want to play at times. And anyway, people got annoyed because now I don't know. Who knows, man? People have been so upset with me this week, Sharoy. They've been very upset with me.
I told you this is what happens when you put yourself out there, man. What are you doing? You're doing the Loose Cannons. You're doing TDK Plus. You're doing this. You're on the club sometimes. You're on TalkSport. You're out there, bro. I mean, this is part of the game now. You're not everyone's going to agree with you, bro. But one thing I will say.
I don't think I'm saying anything that crazy.
I know you didn't. That's the point. But brush it off. Don't worry about it.
Can I tell you something? Can I come clean to my whole audience right now? I've never, ever, and this is still true to this day, I've never gone with a title for a video I don't mean. Everything, I mean it wholeheartedly. So I don't lie, I don't clickbait, rage bait, nothing like that. But when I went with the title for the Southampton match reaction, I said, win a trophy or leave. That was what I said about Mikel Arteta after we got knocked out by Southampton in the FA Cup.
Which I meant
wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
That was such an interesting social experiment for me because I meant every word of it. I said it in my match reaction. I led with it. It was a bit harsh. I think in hindsight, like, who am I? It does come across disrespectful. Like, who am I to kind of put that out in the world to someone like Mikel Arteta for everything he's given Arsenal Football Club and all the efforts and everything? I regret it from that perspective. But what I found fascinating was it's no different to what I said on the podcast with you a week ago and a few weeks before that. It's the same words. The sentiment is identical. I said back then when we were winning and things were good, he better win things though, because if he wins nothing this year, I'm ready for a change. And I say after a defeat, as consistently as before, If we don't win, I want to see a change. But because of the timing of it, and maybe the fact it was put in a title, people got upset. Now I get it. It did come across disrespectful, and only reason I haven't changed it because I don't want to appear to have like taken it back or bottled it. I said it, and and it was probably a bit hard, but it's so interesting that I've been saying this for weeks and like no one ever pulled me up on it. But because we lost, it's kind of seen as way more negative now. Did you get what I mean? I find that really interesting. The
Yeah,
exact
but
same word.
I hear you, but I distinguish between, I think they should be taken together. Like if someone has a title for a video and that title isn't clickbait, as you say, it echoes what they say in the video, then look at the title and listen to the video. Because if you listen to the video, I'd be surprised. Let us know in the comments, right? But I'd be surprised if there's a huge section of the fan base that wouldn't be willing to entertain the idea of something else in the event that we're trophyless again this season. I think that there are a lot of people, whether overtly or whether quietly, that will be sat there and going, from this position in the league, if we don't get over the line, I am genuinely concerned, and I am starting to think, is there a better fit out there? But the reason I don't really want to dwell on that too much right now is because I still maintain that we are going to win the league, so it might all be just a pointless conversation, right? It's something that I know a lot of people are talking about, and I'm not trying to say that you ought not to have spoken about it in that video or on other pods. I understand why it comes up, but in a position where we've done pretty well in a Champions League knockout game, we're heading into the run-in now. We've got a couple of players hopefully coming back from fitness. We're in a strong position in the league. I'd rather feel a certain way about that and look forward to what's to come. I'm not saying I'm not nervous about any of it. I'm just saying that that's where I'm trying to focus my attention.
Mate, I couldn't agree with you more. And you are right. It's a case of like, I get it. So sometimes you put a particular sentence. That's why I said I slightly regret the title, because I think it comes across disrespectful. I don't apologize for my opinion. That's my opinion. And I actually think if a lot of people were being really harsh with themselves, they'd go, could I watch another year of this football if it doesn't win us anything? But it came across a bit disrespectful. So I kind of take that bit back.
I'd maybe go one further. I think a lot of people, even if the football was more entertaining than it has been this season, would still say, if you go trophyless this year from the position we're in the league, we think there should be a change. I don't think the style of football is the primary motivating factor when it comes, because I think a lot of the fan base have accepted this style of football if it wins something, right? I actually think it will be now we're just not getting over the line, and it's going to become a monkey that'll be very difficult to get off your back. If you're second again from this position, how long do you want to go? Do you want to go 5 in a row for that? I mean, that's a question that you really do have to ask, particularly through the lens of what no doubt we're going to discuss in Sammy Mockbell's article at some point, the prospect of him becoming the highest paid manager in the world, which is another topic of conversation.
Yeah, agreed. Well, yeah, a lot to get into there. I just thought it was very fascinating for me, sort of like, my opinion hasn't changed, but it's been presented now under a different circumstance, and now it sounds way worse. When actually I would have thought it would be worse to say it when things were going well. If anything, I probably had reason to be quite mad post Southampton. We're going to get your takes on Southampton and Sporting a little bit, because what's so funny is then people attach that opinion to you. I was one of the most positive fans I've seen online post Sporting. I thought it was a very professional, very sensible performance away from home, and Arsenal did really well, and I thought they handled the pressure well. So we're going to go into all that. Before we do, we're going to tell you about the amazing NordVPN. They're unbelievable. I actually love them. Because they're supporting this podcast so much, people. And if you are not 100% sure whether a virtual private network is for you, give it a go, because of the 30-day money-back guarantee by going to nordvpn.com/Goonerverse, and you get to at least show us support, which by showing them support, you're showing us support, and we can keep building this. And we just talking about it before, we got some really exciting ideas for the Goonerverse and for this podcast that's going to get all of you way more involved as well. But to do that, we need to keep working hard, and NordVPN help us do that. Now, NordVPN, you know what it is. It's a VPN. It's a virtual private network. You can surf the web across the world. It's really, really clever. It opens a world of content. It protects you and your data when you're surfing the web online, especially for things like public Wi-Fi, because essentially that's what it does. By using a VPN, you're basically protecting your internet surfing. That's your ability to then connect to public Wi-Fi. People can't hack you. People can't go on your Instagram, change profiles. I've seen this done. People try sell things on your accounts. People try, they post other things, whatever. You get completely hacked, right? And then it's a nightmare trying to get that account back. That can happen, and you can avoid that for the price of a cup of coffee. Or if you're not so worried about that, you know what, you're traveling on your 5G, you're not even connected to Wi-Fi, that's fine. Why not open a world of content? Why not see what Netflix has to offer in the US that doesn't have in the UK? Why not watch Love Island when you go on holiday this summer? That's what I'll be doing, and you don't have to miss out when everyone on Twitter is still talking about it and the group chats are going off. Look, there's a million reasons to be involved with NordVPN. If you're not 100% sure it's for you, then like I said, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. But if you do go to nordvpn.com/the Goonerverse, you'll also get 4 extra months on a 2-year plan. So do give it a go. The link is in the description below. Big up, as always, to the amazing NordVPN. Anything you want to add, Shiro? I know you love them as well.
It is so easy to use. All you have to do is open the app, and very often you just go pause my connection. You can choose 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 24 hours, however long. Resume my connection, and you can choose pretty much any country that you want, right? It's so easy, so effective. And as James always says, man, neither of us would be vouching for this product if we didn't actually believe in it and use it. So big up Nord.
Exactly that. All right, let's get into Sami Mokbel's article. So there's a lot here, and actually, we're going to show you it. We're just going to go through some of the news. Now, the first thing to talk about is this, that the Norway manager said that there's been a small setback for Odegaard and that he'll be back on the pitch before long. I imagine that means soon. Let's hope it's nothing serious, despite the contradicting feelings about his form. I think it's a good time to ask you about Odegaard's form before we go into the Sami Mokbel stuff. When I said Sami Mokbel, there was a list of reports that did the rounds. So Eze was seen back in training, big news. But Odegaard, this has come out that he might be injured. I believe he wasn't spotted in training. Thoughts on the injury situation for him, Eze returning? But I've got to ask you, like, what you've made of his form. He's really divided opinion. Some people have seen him receiving the ball 3 times in the pockets from Rice, and he keeps punching it back. Some people have seen him pointing. I did a video on it, him pointing to Max Down rather than just giving it. I found him frustrating, but I do also agree that the criticism has been over the top, and maybe I've been a touch unfair. But I'd love to know your thoughts on Odegaard's performances.
The first thing that I have to say is he's a victim of the standards that he had set himself. Right, when we were looking at the level at which he was operating, when he took the captain's armband, and I can't sit here and just say I have to actually hold myself accountable here. I was probably one of his biggest advocates, not just in terms of him being the right signing, but also him taking the captain's armband and me sort of saying, no, he is the conductor, he is the creative outlet, right? And I don't think that kind of pressure has helped, because note that I said the creative outlet, when in actual fact we absolutely need more than one. I still think a lot of people, because there's a lack of creativity elsewhere on the pitch, they do still look at him as the creative outlet, which is why when he's not, he gets a lot of stick. Right now, Southampton, the reason I don't want to be too harsh on him for Southampton is because I thought the vast majority of the players on that pitch, bar the teenager, were dog shit, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, right? So I could sit here and I could analyze his performance through a microscope, but what's the point? Everyone was crap. Whereas when I'm looking at Sporting, this might actually go into the Sporting performance a little bit. I mean, sorry if I'm muddling the topics that you wanted to discuss in a particular order, but look, with Sporting, I know people were saying, no, it wasn't that different a performance. I was watching it with commentary off, and I kind of felt like there was a different intent from the outset. I'm not saying it was executed much better, but I felt like there was a different intent. And I say that because I could see Gabriel passing the ball to Rice, or I think it was actually Rice passing the ball to Gabriel. It was just ever so slightly behind him. And I think it was Gabby that was pointing, no, here, in front of me. And I could see everyone trying to get rid of the ball that little bit quicker. And there was a bit less side to side and a bit more progressive work. And I think a lot of that actually came from Martin Odegaard, not only showing for the ball in the back four, which I know a lot of people don't really want him to be doing, but also taking up those positions in between the midfield and the front line. In a way, sort of what you were saying when you were reviewing his Southampton performance, showing in the half spaces a little bit more and trying to do something a bit more adventurous with it and being braver on it. Now, again, what's the point in talking about all of that if it leads to you still sitting there 0-0 and him not really affecting the goal that comes at the end? Look, fine. I will be receptive to those arguments, but how many players do we know that are 2-3 games back from injury and an injury ravaged season that suddenly come and set the world alight. I'll give this guy a bit of grace in terms of playing himself into form, particularly because when I looked at his performances earlier in the year when he came off injured, I didn't think they were as bad as people are making them out to be. A lot of people might be typing now saying, "Oh, so you think Odegaard's still the answer?" That isn't what I said either. All I'm saying is there was a little bit more intent and a little bit more reason for encouragement as to what he might be able to produce as one of the people to occupy that position in the run-in. I don't think he's nailed on to start every game. Obviously, if Eze's back, he's definitely in contention. If we're ranking them in terms of my order of preference, I would still put Havertz behind Odegaard in that position. I would rather see Odegaard playing there than Havertz. I don't like Havertz in midfield. For me, right out on the basis of who we have available, and I'm not putting Max into this equation, it would be probably Eze, Odegaard, then Havertz, right? And there isn't that much separating Eze and Odegaard. So all in all, this injury news is annoying, man, because every time it looks like he might be able to improve on what was a decent performance and turn it into a good performance, or a good performance and turn it into a run of great performances, something like this has happened. I really don't think that's going to help in terms of him building up any rhythm. Depending on how long he's out for, it could really influence how fluid or how potent our attack is in the coming weeks, right? And thankfully, if the reports are correct, we'll come on to that as well. It looks like we might have an alternative in that position that we didn't think we'd have this soon in Ebbs. But that's where I am with Odegaard. You know, he's the last person on the list of the people that are being discussed as those that need to move. For me, he's at the bottom of that list. I wouldn't sit there and start like punching up my TV if I turned on a news outlet and they said that we'd accepted an offer for him. But there are others that I think we should be looking to move on way before we start thinking about him. I'm not done with him yet.
You just summed up everything I feel about the player perfectly.
I'm glad. Thank you.
You know,
I'm glad.
No, it's that in bullet points. Yeah, if we sold him, would it be the end of the world? No, but I'm far from done. I want to see more from him. I don't think he's been great, but I think the football's partly stifled him. I definitely think Sporting was a better performance. There was a better intention, application, intensity, even though it didn't come off. I think the ideas were better. Sporting were just a better team. I think you're right about, you know, people don't love him dropping into the pockets, trying to get the ball and all that. And I get that. But I think that's more a problem with the function of the team. Because if you've got a player who does that as well as Odegaard, then you should build a side that allows someone else to get in the pockets and hurt the opposition.
I hate doing this. I don't want to cut you, but it just he's not the only one that does it. There are games where Declan Rice does it, and people always say, well, Declan Rice needs to be further forward. There are games where Zubimendi's doing it, and people say, well, no, we want Zubimendi affecting the ball. Ultimately, there is going to be someone who plays in that midfield that does that. It just so happens that when it's Odegaard, because, as I said at the beginning, he's meant to be the attacking and creative outlet, everyone comes down on him a bit harder. But ultimately, our whole midfield does it at times.
Yeah. I don't get me wrong. Like, I want a bit more personality from him as a 10, but I also don't think he is a 10. So it's difficult because I'm like, also, is he being used as a 10? He's kind of being used as a right 8, but he's definitely used as kind of like the main creative outlets. Anyway, we could go on and on, but I agree with you largely on the Odegaard stuff. I think the criticism, you know, what you said about his injuries at the beginning of the season, I thought he was playing well in all those games before he got injured. In fact, I thought he was having a good to very good season right up until Liverpool at home, second half. He got hooked. I think he was maybe he didn't get hooked, but Forest away he got hooked, and Man United at home he got hooked. 3 games in a row where I thought you've been walked all over in this game. I just thought you couldn't deal with the physicality of the league. But up to that point, never a problem. I thought the way he dealt with Villa's midfield, who were very physical, I thought was brilliant in both games. By the way, I thought he did well at Villa Park. He did fine at least. I thought he was great at the Emirates at the end of the month. So, yeah, Odegaard. Bournemouth, think of the ball in behind Saka. So I can praise a lot of what Odegaard's done this season. I just think in recent months it's not been good enough for me, though I see why some people are defending him, saying that he's being scapegoated. So it's an interesting one. You mentioned the players that could leave, and I think that's where this article gets really interesting. So let's go into what we do know. First, we've been linked with Morgan Rogers. We won't really go into this too much. It comes from Gary Jacob, sports reporter at the Times. Arsenal, United, Chelsea have renewed interest in Rogers. Valuation likely to exceed 80 million. However, selling Rogers would most likely be the most straightforward way to alleviate the financial pressures on Aston Villa. Very, very quickly, Would you want him for £80 million?
Where would you play him?
I don't want him. You know, if someone offered him to me, you know, for way less, and someone said, "Would you like this player as part of your squad?" I'd say, "Oh yeah, absolutely." But knowing what I think we need and the players, for me, Rodgers isn't that different to Eze. I know they are, the way they play the game slightly different. I think Rodgers is more of a powerhouse, whereas Eze is a little bit more glidey and guily. But basically, they're both XG cheats who can put the ball in the top corner of absolutely nothing. They're both players that can play on the wing, but prefer central license and central access. And they're both players who I think would be stifled under the current football we play.
So the XG cheat thing, I would play him centrally if we got him. I don't want to see him out wide. But the reason I don't want him at all is if you're talking about an 80 million outlay, but in the same breath, I have to read about the prospect of someone like Ethan Nwaneri leaving because we need to recoup a certain amount of money. One of them has to be bullshit, in my opinion, because you can't be sitting there talking about we need pure profit, so we're going to let go of a particular player in a particular position, when one is particularly promising and an XG cheat and loved by the fan base and nowhere near his ceiling and could still be pure profit in years to come if he continues to excel, then go spend 80 million on this guy. And that's not me saying that Morgan Rodgers isn't a very, very good Premier League player. That's just me saying for where we are right now and what I'm reading, it doesn't make sense to me.
I couldn't agree more. Okay, next thing we go into then. Let's have a little look. Arsenal could sell either Leandro Trossard or Gabriel. By the way, big up AFC stuff. This is who I follow. I've got the alert, so every time they tweet, they're a very good news aggregator.
Well, not just you, 953.6k others as well. My God.
Nearly 1 million followers. Unbelievable. So huge congrats to AFC stuff. They don't need my promotion, but I'm literally going through their account because they've nailed all this. So could sell either Trossard or Gabriel Martinelli owing to performance and contractual reasons. Arsenal have an option to extend Martinelli's contract by 1 year to 2028, but may offer him a new, longer deal if he is willing to be a squad player. I've got a lot of thoughts on this. And before we actually go into is it Trossard, is it Martinelli? Why is this coming out now? I mean, I mentioned Sammy Mokbel. This is all coming from Gary Jacob, who is also well informed. Why is this coming out now? I find this extraordinary. I don't blame the journalists. Their job is to bring news, is to do this, is to get the stories and tell us what's going on. Full credit to the journalists. They have no reason to hide anything from us Arsenal fans or protect the club. But this information is done the round by multiple journalists now. And it's not the first time we've seen Lewis Skelly linked. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Why now? Trossard and Martinelli, one or both, need to play a huge part between now and the end of the season. Martinelli just did the other day. Why are we hearing, great assist, Martinelli? Do you want a new contract if you're willing to be a squad player? Trossard, great clutch season you've been having. Probably the one season you've had at Arsenal, you've actually been a guaranteed starter. You might leave at the end, though, so we'll see all the contractual situations. This is really strange. That could be complete rubbish. That might be the simplest answer. It's complete and utter rubbish. All of it. I don't believe it is rubbish. I believe a bit too much information has just got out.
Pure speculation. Don't hold me to it. Please don't attack me for trying to do too much. If you're coming into a period of time, where, as you said, both of these guys have a crucial role to play, and they both need to step up, and their performances do need to elevate. What do you think would motivate them if they didn't already have motivation? Would it be the prospect that they might be able to get a longer term deal? Would it be the prospect of we're actually willing to let you go unless you can change our mind? Could that have been sent to a journalist, put it out there? See if that changes the way in which they respond. We all know that Trossard, when he got left on the bench and he came back on, I think it was against Villa, scored the goal, went and did this, was like, hey, look, why are you putting me on the bench? Sometimes people react to this sort of stuff. That's one element of where my mind went initially. But the other, I've read everywhere, Arsenal and Andrea Berta really are going to be focusing on outgoings. And apparently the Kroenkes were very pleased with the window last year, but obviously selling has been a shit show at Arsenal, and Berta's being judged on that. So do you want to let potential suitors know that we're willing to listen to offers, but we do have an option to extend? There is absolutely a prospect that we might want to retain him. If you want him, you've got to come and prize him away from us because he is still a valued asset, as opposed to what you'd hear on the vast majority of podcasts, which is now, I'm done with him, mate. right? So there are a number of things at play here. That's not me. None of that is me speaking as a fan. Me speaking as a fan, I don't want to be hearing any of this shit going into a title run-in. I don't want to be hearing about incomings. I don't want to be hearing about outgoings. I don't want to be hearing about anything. All I want to be hearing about is Bournemouth, right? That's where I am as a fan right now, and that's where I've been since we won against Sporting. Quite frankly, all I've been thinking about is that bloody 12:30 kickoff. But there are a couple of reasons as to why I think if this is true, it may not have been an accidental leak. I think it may have been a put that out there. But again, pure speculation.
It's a great way to look at it, to be fair. It could be. I wouldn't have thought these are the kinds of players that react to that kind of motivation technique.
I think Leo might be. I don't know about Martinelli. He seems like more of
Maybe.
an all around the shoulder guy, but I think Leo's a bit more of a, you know what, F you. Let's go.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. And then the question becomes of the two, who would you want to keep? I mean, so what's the situation? Leandro Trossard signed a 2-year deal last summer, but it was just a pay rise. It was an extension. So it was basically to see out his final 2 years on a higher salary. With Martinelli, there is extend it to 1 year. So basically 2027, it expires. They could go to 2028, which basically means he's got 2 years left. And they're happy to extend that beyond if he's willing to just kind of be, have a bit part role, which he kind of has had this season. I mean, I've got to say, it reads as very accurate reporting because it makes complete and utter sense. So what would you think Arsenal's play should be? And there's a little bit of a trick question in here, but what would you do?
Personally, and I don't like saying this, man. I don't want anyone to think that I'm being. This is me putting sentiment aside and talking about how desperately I want a functional left-hand side going forward, mate. I let go of both. I do let go of both.
That's the trick question element, yeah.
Okay.
And I know that we're being hypocrites here for a sec, because I'm saying, what does it help these reports coming out? People could rightly say, what does it help you two sitting on a podcast saying that you'd sell both when it's a very good point. I don't think my words carry as much as actual reports from within the club. If I'm honest, I think my opinions on football. I would think my opinions on football, as yours, as other whole fan bases online, I'd feel like that should be a bit more motivating. Or I'm going to prove the fans wrong. I don't know. I think it's different, and I'm just surprised by these reports. But I agree with you. I don't think there's room for either next season. If I'm being totally ruthlessly honest.
All right, let's explore. I know we've got a lot to get through, but I do want to explore this if he's willing to be a squad player thing, because as you know, I listen to every podcast that you appear on, right? And I can't remember which one it was. I think it was the Loose Cannons where you were talking about Martinelli's Champions League output.
Yeah.
And the fact that his numbers as a squad player, particularly from the bench, I think the only goal that he scored in the Premier League was from the bench as well, and it was a big goal. If he's willing to be an impact, okay, we'll chance it on you for 10 or 15 minutes and you play the early rounds of the cup. Do you keep him then? My answer there is no, because it will be a new, longer deal. So I think the wage that he would try and justify to hold a position in our squad isn't enough to justify the minutes that someone like that squad player would be getting. That's the reason I would say no. But I would be more than willing to listen to arguments as to why, for those reasons, you keep him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Great question. Okay, let me try to be quick with this. Let me not try and go on and on and on. I think Trossard, for all I think Arteta's football has been quite stifling to our attackers, I actually still believe we've seen prime Trossard. I think we've seen the best he can give to Arsenal. And I think there was plenty of body of work in the 22-23 season, 23-24 season, and also his time at Brighton. I don't think at any point he was very, very good. I don't think at any point did he get us off our feet and we went, wow, we've got one of the electric wings. I think we said, what a clutch, brilliant squad player who adds invaluable experience and a cold head in front of goal. Love it. I think Martinelli, there was a time where he did get us off our feet. I think 22-23 Martinelli, maybe even the season before that. And well, actually, in all the years before that, we thought this guy's electric. And I wonder whether a more freed up Arsenal, a little bit the feelings I have for Odegaard, only I feel like it's been a bit too long with Martinelli. But I still feel like there's more in him. And I still feel we'd see a different. Jordan said on Loose Cannons, he thinks he'd go to another side and tear it up. And maybe not in the Premier League, but yeah, I could so see that in a league that afforded a bit more space and a bit more, a license for a player like that to excel, then yeah, I think he absolutely would. So don't know if I've answered that. I'm not saying I prefer Martinelli to Trossard. I mean, if starting against Bournemouth, I want Trossard to play. But I do feel that when we're building next season, I'd be happy for Eze to be our starting left winger. For Eze to be the guy. We don't go big on left winger. Eze's the guy. Odegaard plays into form. Nwaneri's a squad player. Dalman can play there too. Saka can play central. Martinelli's the backup to Eze. And then we go big on the striker like Julian Alvarez. That's how I would approach it. That's not what the reports are saying. And we've got more to get through.
Yeah.
So sorry, after saying I'd be quick with it, I went on a long old ramble.
No, I hear you. It's better that you do that sort of thing justice, though, man, because I don't want anyone misconstruing any of our feelings towards any of these players. So I think it's better that you are thorough with this sort of stuff.
Agreed. Sorry, I muted myself, then unmuted, then muted again. Okay, so let's go to the next stuff then. So, okay, Morgan Rogers to Arsenal discuss. Okay, it is understood initial discussions have taken place. This is Sammy Mockbell now, the BBC. He's brilliant. Have taken place about extending Mikel Arteta's contract to Arsenal. And talks are described as heading in a positive direction. From the ownership and club's perspective, extending Arteta's deal is what they want. Let's see if there's anything else that's popped up around. No, that's recruitment. Cool. We'll get back to that. Where do you stand on this?
Look, I've read the Mockbell article, right? Classic. I want to read the primary source before I read the aggregator. So I did read this. When they say what they want, apparently it's what Arteta wants and it's what the club wants. Some people might be like, no shit, but I have heard a lot of talk about, well, if Arteta doesn't win a trophy, maybe he wants to go. Or I have heard a lot of talk about, Kroenke didn't look too happy when he was handing out that or standing there on the balcony for that Carabao Cup runners-up medal. Maybe if he doesn't get a trophy, maybe they do get rid of him. But the article says that no, neither is on the cards, right? So that was interesting for me. But the article also said there's something that was public knowledge, but it's something that I don't think a lot of people speak about when they speak about Mikel Arteta. Or I certainly don't hear it very often. Apparently in the world right now, he's the third highest paid manager, only behind Guardiola and Simeone. And we all know that Guardiola agreed his new deal, so he's not going to be getting a pay rise. And I'm not sure what Simeone's contractual position is, which then begs the question: is Mikel Arteta deserving of arguably being the highest paid football manager in the world? That was okay. You're shaking your head immediately. Now, if he wins the Premier League for the first time in over 2 decades, and he's now seen as the long-term project, one of the only long-term managers that you're going to see in the Premier League. Something that we didn't think we'd really see after Arsene Wenger, Sir Alex Ferguson, and that era. Obviously, we've seen it with Pep, but it's not commonplace in the league. If he manages to, I don't even need to talk about winning the Champions League. If he manages to get us to a Champions League final, and he wins the Premier League, given where he took this team over from, is he then worthy of being the highest paid manager in the world? Now, a lot of people would say, "You mad, bruv? Like, to be the highest paid manager in the world, you've got to win the best stuff repeatedly to get there." And in a way, I hear that, but that's not how business works.
Yeah, you're right. It's not how business works. You're right about that.
That's the thing. I mean, how many of us, I'm sure that there are people who are sitting here listening to this right now in jobs, right, that can sit there and point to people that they think they're better than, or they are better than, but that other person's getting paid more because they were there, right place, right time, made the right deal, had the right boss, were in the right economic climate. There's a number of reasons, right? That's just not how business works. And that's why I don't want him to really be judged by what I'm discussing right now. If he gets that deal, and he then becomes the highest paid manager in the world, fine. But what comes with that is the pressure of, now you're the highest paid manager in the world. You're going to have to walk that walk. And it's not good enough to then rest on your laurels and say, well, I got us to a Champions League final and I won our first league. It's then, no, all this talk about dynasty, well, this is now on you. This is now on you. And don't forget, it then if it goes to shit, the club has to ultimately drop a massive payout. When you're paying someone that wage, right? Because the payout is inextricably linked to the amount they're getting paid. So there's a lot to consider there. And sorry, I'm going on, but I remember that, was it the last contract that he got when we were going through a difficult time? And he was quite public about, I'm glad that the owners showed faith in me. When
I'm going to look this up because I've got a theory about this. So carry on.
Yeah,
I'm going to have a look.
It may not have been the last contract, but it was certainly one of the most spoken about contracts, because it seemed like I think it was the season where we just missed out on top 4 to Tottenham.
12th of September 2024. So at the start of
24.
last season, he signed a new 3-year contract.
Okay, all right. So it would have been the contract deal before that is the one that I'm speaking about. When I think we just missed out on top four, but they extended. But then maybe 2 years into that, they renegotiated terms, and I might be wrong as to that. But either way, there is this habit of giving him a contract when there are still discussions.
6th of May, 6th of May, 2022, when we were going for Champions League football, he didn't get it, but he signed the contract before, and then the 12th, so after the title race of 2023-24.
And we all know how that title race went, right? So there'll be a lot of people that have a consistent opinion for all three contract discussions. Why are you ultimately rewarding not getting over the line? Is that an indicator of the club's appetite, for example? There'll be the other people that are saying, are you mad, bro? You were literally just talking about the fact that you were scrapping to get into top four. You gave him a new contract, which led to you scrapping for a title. You gave him a new contract, and you're probably going to get one now. Isn't that where you want to be? I kind of see the force in both. My opinion on this, having said all of that, I actually reserve my opinion on this until I see how this season ends up. And that's why I would have much rather this conversation wasn't happening at all. It's the wrong time. And if I were the employer, I wouldn't have been having this conversation now. I mean, where are you with it? Where are you with it?
Just a theory. I've no doubt they're going in a positive direction. He'd be paid very good money, and the club are happy to pay it because they rate him and they like him, and he's been in the job. This would be for his 7th, 8th, and 9th year, I believe. So that will make sense. I think Arteta's going to hold off on signing it until he knows whether we've won the league or not. It's the 9th of April. Every chance that things get done on a similar timeline to 2022. But in 2022, that was kind of wrapped up quickly. When they were going through problems, they still gave him the contract. So here you go. Do you want it? After 23-24, do you remember what he said? No, was it 23-24? Or was it the year before that? There was one season after the title race, he said, I really wondered whether I could do it, whether I could get it done. Do you remember that? Do you remember this quote?
No, I don't even remember him saying that, actually.
I want to find the quotes. Arteta.
What was he discussing when he meant I could get it done?
Look at this, 5th of August 2023. So it was after the first title race in the Standard. Can you hear me? Sorry, am I coming through? Yeah. Mikel Arteta reveals he considered quitting Arsenal this summer and explains why he didn't. Asked to sum up the summer. This is after our first title race failure. The first few weeks, very tough. The first thing you have to do is look in the mirror and understand, is there something that you should have done better or differently? If that is the case, then learn from it. Judge yourself. Are you still the right person to drive the club, the team forwards in the way that you want? Or do you have that energy and belief that you want to do it? It took a big reflection, but the answer is yes. And I feel with a lot of energy and positiveness. Now, look, when you read the quotes like that.
That's not what the headline said.
Yeah, I know. The headline screams, but to be fair, they weren't the first ones that say it. I think it might have been the question. But I saw that headline doing the rounds a lot. But yeah, I know what you mean. The quotes don't really add much. BBC, Arsenal manager considered his Premier League future after missing out on titles. This is the BBC. Gunners led. Keep going. Give me your thoughts, or I'll just see if I can find.
I personally, I'd be very, very surprised if at any point during his Arsenal tenure to date, he's honestly sat there and not believed that he's the man to get it done. But I think that would change if he didn't do it this year. That's what, and again, it's pure speculation. I'm not inside the guy's head, right? But I think that any man, I think I've alluded to that on this pod before. I think that any man, after the window that he just had, after seeing City's inconsistency, after seeing the way that Liverpool fell away, after seeing the lead that we have now, if we again finish second, and it's yet again to Pep Guardiola in the midst of his own rebuild, I do wonder whether Mikel Arteta goes, you know what? I'm not sure that I am the guy to get this over the line, because now I've gone for the style of football that I actually thought was going to win. I don't think it's the style of football that he wants to play, and it's probably not the style of football that the vast majority of fans want to see. It seems like he's done everything he can this year to get it over the line. And again, I preface all of this by saying I think he will, but yeah, that's where I am.
So sure, I don't know whether maybe what they haven't got is the questions. I don't know whether there was a question being like, maybe someone said, "Did you doubt whether you could?" I don't know, or did you? I don't know if that drew the answer, which made people. But when BBC and The Stand and others are all going with that headline, I feel like that must have been quite clearly the message that came through. I think what they're really jumping on, though, is him saying the first thing you have to do is look in the mirror, understand, could I have done something differently, judge yourself. Are you still the person to drive the club? It took a big reflection, but the answer is yes. And I feel that with a lot of energy. I think ultimately what he said is, I really reflected on that. And that was after number one. Then he finished second again. Then he finished second again. Imagine if he finished the second one more time. So I think he's holding out on signing because I think he wants to know that he can do it before he goes, yeah, cool, let's go for it. I really do. I really believe that. That is, again, I go back to my title, that video that people got upset by. I didn't say win a trophy or sack him. I don't think Arsenal should sack him. I don't want Arsenal to sack. I don't want us to be a club that operate that way, but I want everybody involved, from Arteta to Berta to the Kroenkes to the players, to be extremely critical of the work they're doing this season. If we win, celebrate it and go crazy. That parade, we will light up London for months and months till the summer ends and we're back in the thick of more football. We don't care about the World Cup. We'll be having a great time. But if we don't do it, I want the self-reflection to come from all of them to a point where if we don't do it again, yes, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It's my opinion. Please don't get upset with me. People think I've been turned. I've been poisoned. I'm negative. It gets me more views. It doesn't. I get more views when I'm positive, just for what it's worth. Like, it's just how I genuinely feel. If he can't do it, I would like a change. But guess what? I think he's going to do it. And I think he's going to sign a new deal. And I think he's going to evolve his football from there. Does that wrap it all up for people? Is that okay? Like, I don't know, sure, am I being a sarky little twat? I mean, maybe I am. But I feel quite personally misunderstood here because I've actually backed this project, this manager, for so long that I think I've got the right to say when I just feel like I'm at the end of my tether. And I think Mikel might be too, mate. I think he might be really close as well.
A lot of it is going to be context. A lot of it is going to be context because if I hate talking about it, but if we don't get over the line, there'll be 1, 2, 3 games that we'll look at from now until the end of the season, right? If we don't get over the line. Now, if you look at that, if you look at those games and you're sat there going, nah, Mikel, you actually got those wrong. Your lineup was wrong, or your tactics were wrong, or your subs were wrong, or whatever. Okay, but if we're all sitting there going, I would have chosen the same team. I would have probably set them up the same way, but our players missed like 8 gilt-edged chances. He can't legislate for that, and that's different. Then you start looking at the players and go, well, you lot need to, I mean,
Not
I
for
don't.
me, mate. Sorry. No, because I'm just at the point where if all these players look blunt in front of goal, at what point is it? Well, because they barely get chances, and the one time they got a chance, they weren't really match fit and match ready for a chance because we barely create any. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm kind of at that point. Like, also these attackers are failing to put it in the back of the net. You signed all of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I am now. Guess what? He brought on Martinelli and he signed Kai Havertz and he won us a game at Sporting, and I gave him all the credit in the world for that. So it really is. This is the game.
But I also know they're all capable of it. I mean, looking at the chances that are at the forefront of my mind right now, I think they're both Southampton chances. The one that Odegaard just skies that gets cut back to him, I know he can put that in the back of the net, bro. The set piece that works brilliantly, and Martinelli's just there and he drags it. I know he can put that in the back of the net, bro. There was a Trossard one against Sporting where it opens up for him nicely. I know he can put that in the back of the net. There are so many of them where I'm just sat there going, you could do this with your eyes closed. Why are you not doing it now? But again, look, there is an argument that the buck stops with the manager because there could be an argument that he's not assisting them with managing pressure well, and the recruitment argument that you put forward. So I do get that. Yeah. But I think for people to really turn on the manager, I think there will be a lot of context in the run-in. I think that's the crux of the point that I was trying to make.
No, totally fair. So let's go to the next bit. Share screen. Here we go. Right. So this is now we're in the meat of things. So I think we'll do this all at once. Arsenal's recruitment team is set to target a versatile fullback, a central midfielder, and a left winger. While the plan for the summer is in place, the club are aware they may also need to react to market conditions and opportunities when they arise. Now I'm going to fly through some other bits because when we're talking about reacting to the market, Arsenal are expected to listen to offers for Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan Nwaneri. Sources indicate they would look to recoup a minimum combined 100 million for the pair, and their sales would be pure profit, a scenario that provides a clear financial attraction. Martin Odegaard enters the final 2 years of his contract this summer, which could raise questions over his future. But it's understood Mikel Arteta is minded to keep his captain. Arsenal have been heavily linked with Julian Alvarez, and while their interest is genuine, it's understood either Victor Gyökeres or Kai Havertz would need to leave for Arsenal to step up their interest. And Arsenal admirers of Tino Livramento, with Newcastle likely to sell at least one of their key players. The club are monitoring the situation. Arsenal also had interest in Sandro Tonali and Anthony Gordon. Let's talk about these two, man. I can't believe it's taken 45 minutes. This might be the longest podcast we've ever done. I know you've got to get to bed.
No, I'm good. I want to hear your opinion on these two before I jump in. Go for it. And I don't think you can do it. I don't think you can do it together, if I'm being honest with you. But if you feel like it's just a straight no, I want to keep them both, and that's the end of it, fine. But I think there's a difference between the two.
Okay, I'll give you two answers. I'll give you the logical answer, and I'll give you the emotional answer.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with the emotional one.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we adding players that feel less nimble, feel less evasive and flary, feel technically a level below what we're used to at Arsenal, who don't look after possession as well, who don't feel like Arsenal DNA, and getting rid of hail-end products, young players who bleed Arsenal, who've been there since such a young age, and crucially are so much made of the fabric of what the club is. Like, they are beautiful players to watch. Lewis Skelly and Nwaneri are beautiful players to watch. And when I say what I said earlier about why we're adding players who aren't necessarily that, that's not a bad thing. But Nketiah is a robust player who's neat on the ball and whatever, but he's a robust player. Gyökeres is a robust player. Madueke is a direct player. Norgard is a robust player. Man, it feels like what we're adding to what we're taking away. I don't love it. I don't love it at all. I really, really, really don't. I think these two are good enough to be playing football for Arsenal in the Premier League. I think Ethan Nwaneri is a wonderfully talented player, horribly misprofiled because we're having him as an understudy to Odegaard. Actually, they can play together. We've seen it in pre-season. Actually, they're very different. One's a build-up player. One's a final third killer. Actually, he's not even just a right 10. He could be a left 10. He could be a false 9. He could be a right winger. And we pigeonholed him into, well, unless Odegaard, Marino, Eze are all injured or Havertz as well, and we're playing a Carabao Cup game, he's essentially not going to get minutes. Don't like that at all. Lewis Skelly balled out of the Bernabeu against three of the most dangerous individual attackers in world football, and he made it look like a walk in the park. And suddenly there's no room for him. Now, that's my emotional head. My emotional head is, don't you dare do this, Arsenal. I don't care about pure profit. This is not what we're about as a football club. It's just, it's everything we're not. That's my emotional response. My logical response is, what don't we know? What don't we know? What, when these two have been given opportunities, have they looked good this season? No. Like, if we're being really honest, not really. All right in the cups. I thought Lewis Gay did well against Atletico in the second half, but no, not really. Do they? Are they players that would win us the title if they're playing right now? Are they like the deciding players? Probably not, but they're not meant to be. They're 18, for God's sakes, 19. Is there a world in which Arsenal want to invest so big in the summer on three really top players that the price you pay is the youth? I mean, Chelsea sold Salah and De Bruyne and others and had major success doing so. But look what they missed out on, man. I think they missed out on two of the greats. The greats. I think the best right winger and the best 10 in Premier League history are those two. So there you go. I think that sums up my thoughts. I am open to the idea that there's plenty I don't know. But until I know it, I'll go off what I do know. These two should be playing more football for Arsenal. That's how I feel.
Yeah, no, going back to what you do know and what you don't know, right? Ultimately, in this world, pure profit aside, if a player who is the asset and is ultimately the commodity is not happy, the player might be driving that. It might be the player that's had a conversation about, and this is where I think you can distinguish between the two, but I think the player might have had a conversation about their pathway and said, well, then I do need to go. And you'll get money for me. It works for you. It works for me. That's business. That is business, right? And I don't look at one of these guys and think I'm going to be full of absolute regret, the same way that we are with Gnabry now. There's one of these guys that if I had to guess now, I would say is going to be very good, but not well beater good. But there's another guy there that I think is going to be well beater good, and that's Ethan. He is and look, don't get me wrong, I love Miles. I do. But love don't win you Premier Leagues. And if we're looking at the left-hand side and the reports of us signing a versatile fullback, i.e. someone that could probably play on both flanks, knowing that we also sometimes can play timber there if shit really hits the fan. Bro, you've got Nkapie. You've got Calafiori. You're looking at another versatile fullback, someone that you'd probably trust ahead of Miles. Because as you said, man, in our heart of hearts, how many of us, a year on from those Bernabeu moments that you were discussing, how many of us would want Miles starting if we end up with Barca or Atleti in the semi? Hand on heart. We'd feel nervous, wouldn't we? Okay? So that's that. But then there's Ethan. Do you remember the scramble to get him to sign that contract? Apparently Man City were sniffing around. And now you're looking at a team that everyone says, Odegaard, I think we probably should move on from him. Eze hasn't really set the world alight in the 10. Marino shouldn't really be playing in the 10 anyway. Kai Havertz, we don't like him in that position. Max is too young. The natural successor, the XG cheat that we were discussing, the guy that we've now sent on loan to go and ultimately hone his craft and come back, he, for me, is next in line to occupy that position. And I would be devastated if we lost that guy to anyone, let alone a Premier League team. I'd be devastated if we lost him to anyone. The aggravating factor with the Miles deal is the prospect that it might be Manchester United. That's the emotional side of me kicking in because I can't stand those brothers. And also, we've just been on the wrong end of too much with them, right? If you look at, I can go back to obviously the Van Persie deal, but that was a player that we knew would bang. There was also like the Sanchez and Mkhitaryan swap. Like we ended up at the time anyway, thinking we got the hard end of the bargain there. Sanchez wasn't that as good as we thought it would be at Man United, but there's so much with them, just in terms of transfers, let alone what's happened on the pitch, that I don't want him to go there. But again, if someone sat down with Miles now and he said, yeah, look, I hear you, but bro, this is a world where there are a bunch of kids that are playing, and I do feel like I'm good enough, but they've got players that they think are better than me in that position, and there are clubs that are going to start me, and I'm going to get paid a hell of a lot more. And look, I'm probably not going to go to this World Cup, but I do kind of want to go to the next Euros and the next World Cup. This is the best thing for me. And the club's going to make a decent whack off it. And it's going to facilitate the attacking signings that you lot want. Then what are you saying? So I understand the emotive. I understand the emotive reaction, but bro, we live in the real world here. And sometimes
no, we don't. No,
we do.
I don't want to.
We do. And how many times have we said that we don't want this manager and we don't want this club to have too much room for sentimentality? We were talking about that with Kepa. Look where sentimentality got us in that cup, in both cups actually. But there's one that you can clearly attribute that to one player in that Carabao Cup final, in terms of them at least getting that first goal. That's what sentimentality did that day. Sentimentality is something that in a ruthless business and in a ruthless competition, sentimentality costs you, man. And that's why I'm not speaking about Ethan with sentimentality. All of the stuff that I said for Miles applies to Ethan. I love the brother too. But I just mean in terms of that guy's ceiling and what I think he's going to be and how he could impact the most glaring attacking flaws that we have. I do think he's the most likely to be the answer, and that's why we need to keep him.
But I don't think this is sentimentality, man. Which is the reason we want to keep them. I think it's about if they leave, it's about who they're leaving behind. Now, let's take Cole Palmer, right? Cole Palmer left Man City. They made 45 million. And there was questions. Did you get it wrong? Was it a mistake? Blah, blah, blah. Cole Palmer left a side that had Bernardo Silva and Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne and Ilkay Gundogan returned, I think, or had just gone. Mahrez and maybe just left. But like it was, of course. Like, there's only so much you can do. But I hate saying this because I actually like the player, but we bought Noni Madueke for £52 million.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't think his right wing performances have been better than what Nwaneri gave us on the right wing last season.
I agree.
So what are we doing?
I agree with that.
And this is where I think there has to be something we don't know. And I think you raised a great point there, which is maybe no one's done anything wrong. Arsenal are trying to bed him in. They're trying to bed them both in and take their time and manage them nicely. And you know what? There's a particular brand of football the Premier League requires right now. And first things first is winning the league, not their careers. It's about what the club does. And I understand all that. Maybe the two are going, that's cool. We get that. But we want to play. We're a bit impatient. Not that's not fair, but we want to be playing football. We believe we can be first teamers elsewhere. So thanks, but no thanks. It's just we're in two different journeys. Had they been a part of the Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli group and core and Nketiah of 2019, 2020, then maybe they would have made it and it'd be different. But that's not where we are. That's fine. I can stomach that. I just don't like what's being left behind. I don't like how many. And I'm sitting in a leather gaming chair in my bedroom saying this. I feel so cheeky saying it. But I don't like how many players who are a good technical level below these guys. I don't like how many of them are being left in the squad and being given more opportunities than those who I think have technical magic, stardust. These aren't just two young players I like who are quite neat on the ball. Lewis Skelly has balled out of the Bernabeu. Nwaneri has scored already some brilliant, brilliant goals in an Arsenal shirt in his young career. Just don't like it. I don't like it.
The thing that I don't like, and I think I said this to you before, man. I can't remember where I said it, but if we do lose Miles this summer, I would never have seen him in the position that I think he'd be best in. I still don't see the guy as a left back. I think he's more effective somewhere in midfield or somewhere closer to the box. But then if I'm looking at the pathway for him there, let's say we bring in Tonali, and we've already got Rice and we've already got Zubimendi, and this guy wants real game time. He knows the score. He knows the score. I understand the force and everything that you're saying, but is he getting picked ahead of Rice, Zubi, or someone like Tonali? No. So he's going to want to go. The stuff that you're talking about in terms of what's left behind, I understand it far more when you're talking about Nwaneri and the positions he can occupy. And that's why that one for me, that's the aggravating one for me. That's the one of the two. And I'm not differentiating between how much I like them. I think they'd actually be upset that they wouldn't be playing together anymore. Those guys are like brothers from everything that I see in the public domain. But in terms of what's left behind, if we're going to be using Miles as a left back, and I look at the left back options we have, taken with the versatile fullback signing that Mark Bell said we were going to make, bro, I hate to say it, but I get it. But I get it from both sides. That's life.
I'm too tired. I'm not in a very forgiving mood about a lot of what Arsenal are doing right now. Other than I'll give credit when I think they are doing the right thing performance wise, and I think they did against Sporting. Look, we were going to talk more about Sporting and Southampton because we didn't get your take on that. We are going to talk about Bournemouth, look ahead to that, but we've had a lot of news to really digest there. So we'll get a few final lines on you, but I've got to add a fourth one in there. The other players rumored to be leaving, reportedly Arsenal are happy to listen to, could be Ben White out for Tino Livramento. We're looking at maybe Tonali coming in, but I don't think we'd get like all three Newcastle players. Anthony Gordon's been linked.
Celta Vigo fullback.
Oscar Minguez, I don't know anything about him, but no one on the timeline seems happy about it. Lewis Skelly, Nwaneri, White, Martinelli, Trossard, Jesus, maybe Odegaard. Now, this was interesting. One of Gyökeres or Havertz would have to go for Julian Alvarez to come in. In fact, I'm pretty sure I got that report in front of me, but whatever. Anyway,
you did have it there, yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of that? That one is really interesting.
Why would they have to go? He was content to go into this season with Gyökeres, Havertz, and Jesus, wasn't he? And you're talking about Havertz and Jesus being two of our highest paid players.
No, I actually get this one. Man, we're not agreeing on anything tonight. I actually get this one.
In terms of, you don't think the egos would align? Someone needs to be the starting nine. Is that what it is? Because don't forget,
I think Jesus
Alvarez can occupy the 10 I mean, he can take that position too if it's not working with the other players as well, right? We know Arteta likes versatility.
I think Jesus was always clearly a bonus to the squad. Basically, he had the injury. I remember squads doing the rounds and no one even had Jesus as an option. Suddenly he comes back, he looks quite bright. And then, you know what, maybe he deserves to be starting some games. And the debate started and then he looked terrible and now we don't. We don't talk about it. Whereas I think if you had Gyökeres, Havertz and Julian Alvarez, you're looking at 3 players, one 65 million, the other 60 million, and the other 100 plus million, probably all on massive money. And I just don't think there's room for all three. I would think, I do think one of them has to go. Even if Jesus goes as well, then I think you make it a case of Martinelli and Saka can play up front, although no one believes me Saka can play up front. But the Athletic did a piece on it. So there we go. They did a little short. So maybe I got something. But yeah, go on. Yeah.
No, then in terms of not just profiles, but what you were saying about a cycle and the players that have got us here, then for me it's Kai Havertz that goes. Because
I think so, yeah.
He's obviously a far more similar profile to Alvarez than Gyökeres is. It gives us two very different options up front, classic horses for courses. I personally, given the injury record of our players, I don't like the idea of only having two strikers and a completely untested false nine. But what do I know?
Well, but then I think you're right. But then there's Martinelli. Marino can play up front. I low-key think Arteta's favourite
Marino.
striker is
Sorry,
Marino.
I forgot about Marino. You're right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's Arteta's favourite striker, honestly.
And looking at the numbers and the finishes.
And if we had another midfielder, then you're looking at Eze, Odegaard, Rice, Norgard, Zubimendi, Marino, and another midfielder coming in, and they can cover midfield. So, it's a difficult one, sure. I think we're going to leave it there. Quick Bournemouth score prediction.
They're going to hate me.
Oh no, you think we're drawing?
2-2.
Okay. Southampton, in a word?
Disappointing.
That's very kind. Sporting, in a word?
Professional.
Yeah, I think so too. Man, that report.
If you asked me about Southampton 72 hours prior, at any point in those 72 hours, you would have got a much harsher word than disappointing. But time is a very good healer.
Did you think anything I said was unfair?
No.
Genuinely, like, be completely honest.
No, not a single thing. I listened to your player ratings when I was driving to Annie's the day after. Agree with every word. If anything, I thought with certain players you might have been a bit nice, but yeah.
Yeah, Odegaard was one everyone said I was too hard on, but I tried to explain that in the days after. But there we go. Everyone in the comments, we love you. Like, you're honestly an amazing community. Whenever I sort of do YouTube videos elsewhere, you know what social media can be like, but I love communicating with the Goonerverse community. Genuinely, like, I think everyone's amazing. They show us tremendous support. They're great sports, and even when there's kind of a debate in the comments, everyone's kind of really good spirited about it. I think it's a very touchy time for Arsenal fans. I think I resisted that for a long time, but I have been caught up in it. You know, it's a very weird position we're in. Like, could win the Champions League and Premier League, but no one's that happy. It's really weird. So, you know, we'd love your thoughts in the comment section below. Try and put some explanation on this Nwaneri and Lewis Skelly stuff that we're missing. And let us know what you think of the transfer stuff. My one take that's aging wonderfully is when I said I think this is the end of a cycle, not the beginning of one. I think that report basically was almost a declaration of Arteta ain't even signed a new deal yet. It's going well, but he's not signed it. And all these players are probably going to go. And they're just going to start fresh, which is a bit scary. Love Sharoy. Everyone go subscribe to Sharoy's voice. When are you back? When are you back to bring some calm to the storm I'm supposedly creating?
I'll be honest with you. The itch is getting itchier. The itch is getting itchier, but you know what my life looks like right now. And to be honest, the balance is as good as it's been for a long time. And as you can see, even though we've been discussing some difficult things, I have been smiling throughout this pod. So I'm, on one hand, trying not to disrupt that balance. On the other, I do want to go back to not just doing things that I know are good for the life balance, but stuff that I really love and enjoy. And that was my community too. So hopefully sooner rather than later, bro.
Good on you, man. And once again, an hour's absolutely flown by, but everyone go check out nordvpn.com/Goonerverse. As Sharoy said, it's so easy. Download the app. You can get it on your laptop as well. It protects you when it comes to public Wi-Fi. It allows you to access content from around the world by paying the equivalent of a price of coffee per month. And you get to go and surf the web from around the world, access a world of content, all that good stuff. You get 4 extra months on a 2-year plan. When you use, when you go to nordvpn.com/Goonerverse and the description, the links in the description below. So even if you're not 100% sure, 30-day money back guarantee. By supporting them, you're supporting us. I'm shattered, mate. What a week.
Problem is, we record this late, and after speaking to you, I'm actually quite energized. I can never go to sleep straight away, despite being knackered when I log on. You know that. That's what this pod does.
I normally am too, but Arsenal have been particularly emotionally draining. But I'm very aware that there's bigger things going on, and it's a privilege to do what we do. And I've enjoyed every minute of this. So, Arsenal, don't sell those 2 gems. Let's not be stupid. Win the title, and let's go and entertain after that, and let's have a party. Love, Shroy. Catch you in a bit.